Hello, and welcome to my channel. If you're not new here, welcome back. My name is Florence, and I'm an artist and a stay-at-home mom. In this video, I'll be reviewing this watercolor paint set of 36 that Woomer sent to me. They also gave me a link to share with y'all for 15% off this palette, and that can be found in the description. Right now, I'm unboxing everything that comes with this set. It includes 10 5x7 cold pressed watercolor sheets, a 36 pan palette, this swatch card, 2 sponges, and this flat water brush. I've actually never used a water brush before, but it was simple to figure out. Right now, I'm assessing the pans to see if there's fallout, and as you can see, there isn't any. Since I'm not used to water brushes or flat brushes in general, I took out my 2 favorite brushes to use for the painting later. For general testing and swatching, I'll be using the water brush. It works as it should. I felt drawn to this green color, so I decided to go for it first. So I squeezed some water from the brush to activate it and worked it in. And I just painted some strokes on the watercolor paper that was included in the set. I also tested out painting a sort of gradient to get acquainted with the paint and to test how well it blended out. So far, so good. Now to activate the palette for swatching. This water brush is pretty handy to use as a dropper. I'm using the water brush to swatch the colors. I'm also testing the paint on my scrap paper to try different amounts of water with. As some of you may know already, the more water you add to a pigment, the lighter that color will be. Some colors I did have to work more with to get enough pigment, like this iron yellow color. But out of the 36 colors, I only had to do that with 3, maybe 5 colors. These reds are really pigmented, and it honestly surprised me. Here is a close-up of the first row of colors I swatched, and as you can see here, they're nicely saturated. Time to do the rest. Let's get right into this painting. I've been in a mood to paint more fruit, specifically blueberries, so I decided to paint some with this palette. especially with those lovely blue and purple shades, and the greens of course. I drew the blueberry design from 2 references using my Prismacolor Cool Erase pencils. I'm using my hot press paper here. If y'all have been following me for a while, then you'll know that I almost always use Arch's hot press paper because of the smooth texture. It's just a personal preference. I've just never been a fan of cold press paper. The paper that came with the palette set is pretty nice, and I was able to paint on it with no issue. I actually painted this eye for a short I did with the paper and the palette. I just really love my hot press paper. I did a bit of a gradient effect with the younger berries with the blues and greens. I really adored this chrome green shade particularly, so I had to use it. I'll stop here to show the progress up close. The paint is pretty even, and better yet, no grainy texture. More on that later. Right now, I'm going to paint the rest of the base layer. Now we're getting into the deeper shades, building on the base layers once they're dry. Like I mentioned before, most of the colors in this palette are super pigmented. The purple and ultramarine blue are really deep. I want to note here that I typically don't use one color straight from a pan. I mix about 2 to 3 colors to get the exact shades I wanted, and I had no issues doing so with this palette. So now I'm just adding deeper shades, more structure and richness to this painting. In the future, I will show an in-depth process of how I paint with watercolors step by step. So if you'd like to see more of my methods and basic tips, go ahead and subscribe. Now for my in-depth thoughts. And at this point, I'm working on the third main layer with the final basic shading before the detail line work. I'm going to grade this palette based on these characteristics that are completely legit and not made up by me at all. Transparency, build ability, blend ability, saturation, and granulation, out of a scale of 5 stars. And 3 out of 5 is standard. For transparency, I give this a 3 out of 5. It's standard and it behaves like all watercolors I've used. For build ability, 3 out of 5 stars. Again, it's standard. With watercolor, if you don't let a layer dry all the way, the pigment can get messed up if you paint over it again. And that happened with this leaf, but it's an easy fix. Blendability. I give this a 5. I've worked with some paints that get streaky when I try to blend out, and I had no issues with this paint. Super easy to blend out, fade, create gradients, etc. Saturation, 5, absolutely. And granulation, 5 out of 5 for no granulation. This is actually the most important characteristic I look for in paint. I had no grainy texture, which is the bane of my existence. I despise it, truly. I'm sure it works for other artists, but for me, no grain. Again, just my opinion. Please don't forget to check out the link in the description for 15% off this set. This gets my stamp of approval. And I had a lot of fun with this, so thank you, Woomer. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more art videos. And check out my Etsy shop for some cute stickers.